Hey, man, you want to get your life in order? Yeah, you. You want to have a meaningful life? Meaningful relationships? Yeah? That's good. That's good that you want those things. But how in the hell are we supposed to get them? We're seeking order, and we're going to find it through Jung so far right now. We're going to start off with Jung and then take it to other places. But right now, starting off with Jung. And if you guys have no idea what the heck I'm saying or why you're even here, you should probably go back and check out the first video in this series. I'll try to put a link to that below in the definition. If not, head over on my page. It'll be in the playlist on how to find order or how to establish order in your life, where I'm kind of giving you a brief introduction as to what the heck we're talking about. Today, though, we got to move on and we got to talk about, we talked about the subconscious in the last video, and the vessel that is your conscious ego resting on this ocean that is the subconscious, in the massive amount of motifs and themes and characters that show up in that subconscious sea, known as archetypes to Jung. Well, Jung talked about, there's many archetypes. And in fact, if you want to learn more about some of the recurring archetypes in our human psyche, you should check out my playlist called The Hero's Journey, where the hero's journey literally maps out some of the psychological archetypes that show up in the human psyche. So you can learn more about those there. But when it comes to Jung and trying to find order in our lives, he talked about, four predominant ones, four predominant archetypes. One was the shadow. The other one was the animus and the anima. Those were 2 and 3. And the fourth was the self. And he was big on the self. And that's a whole nother video. Today, we got to talk about the shadow. What is your shadow? And where is it? The best thing to do, I guess, visually to think about this is think back to the Disney cartoon Peter Pan. I know they've done a bunch of remakes. In every story, though, he's kind of always constantly chasing what? His shadow. It's an ornery, dark shadow reflection of himself that he's trying to pin down and connect to. And like that is the perfect mythological representation of what the heck Jung is talking about when it comes to your shadow. That's the best image and what we're supposed to do. So essentially, here it is. You, from the age of 0, as you're born and you grow up, you have you develop habits and feelings and attractions and desires. Just you develop a personality. Well, part of that development is the repression of certain things based on your parenting, based on your environment, based on your friend group, based on the culture around you. You're taught to not do this and do that, or not like this and like that. And the thing that Jung talks about psychologically is those things that you're taught to repress, taught to not like, taught to not chase after, or not acknowledge, or sometimes it's not even like a verbal acknowledgement like, hey, don't do that. It's sometimes a more discrete process, in the sense that it's like you only talk about one side when in reality there's an opposite side. Well, those things don't just disappear. They don't just get destroyed. They get repressed into your shadow. And so every person has a shadow self that is full of the repressed emotions, desires, likes, even sometimes it's even more full of like knowledge you didn't even know you had. And it's not always bad. There's always a good and bad aspect to every archetype. That's one thing we need to understand as we go forward with Jung. He was very adamant on this, that every archetype has a good and bad nature. So the shadow sounds dark and scary, but it has some good things you could possibly learn from it. An example of this would be someone who's far too agreeable. Their boss constantly walks all over them at work. They're too nice. They always do what other people like and then hate themselves for it at the end. Maybe that sounds like you. Well, I would argue that that's probably, and Jung would say this too, that's probably because you've been taught, whether parenting or whatever environment you've been brought up in, you've been taught subconsciously to repress the more disagreeable you, the more the fight in you. And so someone like that who's having psychological issues or wants to change that is going to have to tap into their shadow a little bit, at least the aspects of their shadow that aren't agreeable, that do stand up for themselves, that maybe do have a little fight in them, right? So there's an example of a good aspect to the shadow, but a lot of times there's a lot of negative aspects to the shadow, and they will possess you. That's one thing also as we go forward with Jung and trying to find more order in our lives. You guys have to understand, if you're not actively trying to be conscious of the subconscious archetypes, these things inside of you, these characters, these motifs, and you further repress them, they will come back with a vengeance and they will possess you. So a lot of times this happens through projection. The best way to see this is think about the people that annoy you the most, whether they're your little brother, little sister, maybe another family member, friends. You know, we all get annoyed with people eventually, or get angry, and it's like you get so furious with people, some of the things they do. Well, Jung and I would argue that those are usually projections of your shadow self. And those things that they're doing to annoy you or anger you, probably things that you do as well, or things that you wish you did, right? There's a lot of ways that could go. Regardless, projections are a great way to find evidence to your shadow and your shadow self. Here's the thing. If you want to be more ordered, you want to be more integrated, you want to have a more whole you want to have more of an idea of where you're going, you want to have more of a purpose, you want to have meaningful relationships, not only with your friends, but significant others and your family members. Maybe you want to save the world, or you just want order in your life. It's going to have to start with the shadow. It's going to have to start with trying to realize the definitions, the edges of that shadow. Try to describe it, try to define it, try to formulate a picture of it, and then integrate that shadow into your life. Be aware of it, be searching for it, see it in your relationships with the closest people around you, and recognize it. And be like, oh man, this guy's really starting to annoy me. Oh, wait a minute. You know, why is that? Why, right? Think about that. Why is that? Where's that coming from? Oh man, is that something I do? Why would that annoy me? And you'll start to work these things out. And that's the best advice I can start to give for the shadow. I think it's the easiest archetype to access. It's the easiest archetype to start working on. And if you guys want those things I mentioned, order, meaningful relationships, meaningful life, you should start doing that today. Start thinking about what it is your shadow looks like and how you need to integrate it. And I believe at the other end of that, you'll find everything you're looking for, or you'll begin to find everything you're looking for. And it's really the first steps on a good journey towards integration and a more whole you. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you staying this whole time. Hit a thumbs up for the video. Comment below. Maybe you've done some shadow work. There's a lot of literature on this, guys. There's a lot of places you can go. So I'd love to hear if anybody's read any of that or talked about that or been talking about this. The shadow is something that we can all learn from. You know, I can learn from your shadow and vice versa. It's a slippery process at times, but I think it can be done successfully. And so I'd love to hear if you guys have done that. So comment below. Comment if you have more questions. And as always, guys, subscribe. Hit the bell so you know when I'm uploading more videos, especially for this series, because I'm telling you, man, you are going to want to hear what Jung has to talk about. We're going to get into some pretty crazy stuff. One of the books we're going to talk about soon was defined as one of the most terrifying books of our age. What do you even do with that? I don't know. So, and then as always, guys, share this video with somebody that you know may need to hear it or you want to start the conversation with. Again, I'm Anthony. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'll see you soon.